Airports always have a unique atmosphere: hustle and bustle, announcements, long lines at check-in counters. This time, among the passengers, there were many elderly people traveling to visit their children or grandchildren. One of them, preparing for a trip for the first time in a long while, was thoroughly prepared. He studied the new rules, packed his things carefully, and arrived at the airport well in advance. As the line moved slowly forward, many people noticed a woman who passed the check-in with remarkable ease. She had several bags, some duty-free packages, and a bulky jacket on her shoulders. Even though the carry-on rules had become stricter, allowing no more than 10 kilograms, no one stopped her or asked her to pay extra for excess weight. Other passengers exchanged glances. Some shook their heads in disbelief. How was this possible under the current strict regulations? At that moment, it became clear that there were tricks not everyone knew about. Some began asking their neighbors in line, while others quietly discussed what they had seen. Interest in baggage and travel hacks only grew. Everyone wanted to avoid trouble at security, save money, and not worry about their belongings. Some even began taking notes on what the woman did, how she held her bags, what she said to the staff, and how she dressed. After passing through check-in and security, with all formalities behind them, it was time to wait for boarding. In the departure lounge, people spread out. Some read newspapers, some studied the flight schedule, others simply rested, thinking whether they had forgotten anything important. In this calm atmosphere, a conversation began between two elderly passengers who had been brought together by their curiosity about the earlier scene at check-in. One of the women, an experienced traveler, explained with a gentle smile that over the years she had accumulated a lot of useful knowledge. She said that the new 2025 rules had indeed become stricter. Now the size and weight of carry-on luggage are checked at nearly every step, and airport staff closely monitor compliance with the limits. However, she noted that there are ways to stay within the rules without paying extra. The first tip was simple: use duty-free bags. After clearing security, you can buy something inexpensive, a chocolate bar or a bottle of water, and get a branded bag. These bags are not counted as part of your carry-on allowance and can be used to carry extra items that don't fit in your main suitcase. The second tip concerned clothing. It's best to wear your heaviest and bulkiest items: a warm sweater, jacket, boots. You can put chargers, your phone, and documents in your pockets. This reduces the weight of your suitcase and helps you stay under the 10-kilogram limit. The third hack: carefully watch the weight of your carry-on. If you're over by less than 0.5 kilos, staff often let it slide, especially if you're calm and polite. The key is not to argue or try to hide extra items. The seasoned traveler also shared that if you're flying with family or friends, you can combine baggage allowances. The total weight is calculated for the group, which allows for a more flexible distribution of items between suitcases. The conversation turned out to be lively and helpful. People nearby listened attentively, and some even started asking questions. The atmosphere in the lounge became friendly. Elderly travelers shared advice and stories from past trips. A simple wait for a flight turned into a true exchange of experience, helping many feel more confident about their upcoming journey. A few hours later, the plane landed at the destination. The passengers, tired but content, began gathering their things and preparing to disembark. For many elderly people, this moment is always filled with worry. Had their luggage been lost? Would airport staff ask more questions? Had everything gone according to the rules? This time, everything was much easier. The advice and knowledge they had received helped them avoid typical mistakes. Before leaving the aircraft, passengers checked once more that all their documents and valuables were with them, and that their carry-on bags met the standard size and weight limits. No more than 55,5 40 tsalon 25 mm and 10 kilograms for economy class. Items they didn't need during the flight had already been packed into checked luggage to avoid unnecessary hassle. At the baggage claim area, passengers slowly gathered around the conveyor belt, watching the suitcases appear one by one. Some people quickly recognized their bags and left without delay, while others nervously looked for theirs, fearing the worst. For older travelers, this part of the journey often brought back memories of past incidents: a misplaced suitcase, a bag sent to the wrong city, or the long wait for a delayed delivery. This time, however, everything went smoothly. The advice exchanged back in the waiting lounge had helped many travelers pack smartly and clearly label their luggage. Bright ribbons, tags, and stickers made it easier to recognize their suitcases among dozens of others. The woman who had shared her packing tips earlier was one of the first to collect her bag. She gave an approving nod to a fellow traveler who had followed her advice and was now happily wheeling away his compact carry-on. Exiting the baggage area, passengers entered the arrival hall, where family members and drivers waited with signs and smiles. For some elderly travelers, this was the most emotional part of the journey, reuniting with children or grandchildren, or being greeted by long-missed friends. Warm embraces and cheerful chatter filled the air. It was clear that, despite the occasional stress of flying, the joy of reconnecting with loved ones was well worth it. In a quieter corner of the hall, several travelers sat down to rest. Among them were the same elderly pair who had chatted at the gate. They shared a bench, sipping bottled water and reflecting on how much the travel experience had changed over the years. They spoke of the times when boarding passes were handwritten, when flight attendants wore gloves and hats, and when a hot meal on board was the norm rather than a luxury. One of them noted how airports today had become more digital: check-in kiosks, mobile apps, biometric gates. While it made travel faster and more efficient, it also posed a challenge for those unfamiliar with technology. "Sometimes I miss the personal touch," she said quietly, "when a person would smile and help you through the process instead of a screen." Her companion nodded. "That's why it's important to help each other," he said. "These small conversations, the shared tips, they make all the difference." Their exchange was overheard by a young airport volunteer who approached with a friendly smile. She was part of a special program that assisted elderly passengers with navigation, translation, and general support. She offered to guide them to the shuttle service or help arrange a taxi. The offer was kindly accepted. As they walked through the airport together, the young volunteer answered questions about how to use ride-hailing apps, how luggage tracking worked, and what to do if a connecting flight was delayed. The travelers listened attentively, grateful not only for the information, but also for the human connection. Before parting ways, one of the elderly passengers handed the volunteer a small keychain, a simple souvenir from their hometown. "A little thank you," she said with a smile. The gesture, though small, carried warmth and appreciation, and the young woman accepted it with visible emotion. Outside, the travelers finally stepped into the fresh air. The city greeted them with its familiar sounds, smells, and movement. Taxis lined up, buses pulled in, and the pace of life resumed. For these older passengers, the journey had been more than a simple flight. It had been a reminder that, no matter the changes in rules or technology, kindness and shared wisdom always had a place in travel. A week later, it was time to return home. The elderly passengers, now confident in their abilities, prepared calmly for the return flight. This time, the packing process was smooth. All items were neatly arranged, documents and medications were prepared in advance, and baggage weight and size limits were followed precisely. At the airport, an elderly man, flying for the first time, approached the group. He looked visibly worried. He didn't know how to pack his carry-on properly, was concerned about his medications, and feared his suitcase wouldn't meet the size requirements. The experienced travelers responded immediately to his request for help. They explained how to check the size and weight of luggage, talked about using duty-free bags for extra items, reminded him of the rules for carrying liquids and medicines. The man gratefully followed their advice. He moved some items to a store bag, placed medications in a separate transparent pouch, and put his documents in his jacket pocket. Before check-in, they reviewed everything together once more: tickets, passports, medication packaging, chargers. Thanks to their support and guidance, the novice traveler passed all security stages without delays or additional questions. In the waiting area, the elderly travelers shared stories, discussed new rules, and exchanged useful tips. Some recalled how afraid they were of their first trip. Others told amusing stories from past inspections. Everyone tried to support each other to make the journey not only comfortable, but enjoyable. Before boarding, the man they had helped thanked his new acquaintances and promised to pass the knowledge on to his friends and neighbors. Thus, a simple act of help turned into a chain of mutual support that united older travelers and made their journeys calmer and more confident. Now each of them knew, with attention to detail, support, and the right advice, even the strictest rules become not an obstacle, but a part of a comfortable and safe journey.